Hello! Today we're going to talk about really fun things, internships, and I will tell you everything you need to know. Literally, there was so much I wish I knew before I joined college, especially when it comes to internships, because that's not something they teach you in high school or honestly in college either. You kind of have to figure it out yourself. In today's video, I'm going to break everything down in 5 categories. The first one is going to be insider information that I just wish I knew before I went through the internship process every summer after I went to college, because I had an internship every single summer. The second is going to be organization, just reminders on how you can apply to internships and how to keep everything tidy and organized so that you don't miss any deadlines. The third is going to be resumes. That's really going to be the heart of your application to any internship, and you can make yourself sound like you did a lot of things, and honestly, you probably did do a lot of things and you just don't think about your achievements that way. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to go through my exact resume that landed me my data scientist job. I got an offer my senior year of college, like a year before I graduated. I knew what I was going to do, and it took tireless nights, many tireless nights, but I'll show you my resume. I'm also going to show you my exact cover letter to help you craft your own perfect and unique cover letter. So cover letters are going to be the 4th thing we talk about today, and the 5th is going to be interview prep. And yes, this is going to be very comprehensive, so get a notebook, get some notes, get some coffee and food, and yeah, let's get straight into it. And hey, for those of you who may not know me, my name's Priya, and I'm here to help you get into college, do all of the college things and other things, I guess. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. It's really going to help my channel out, and let's get straight into it. So getting into the insider things that you need to know, the first is really leveraging your college connections. So the reason you hear that people might not have internships like freshman year summer or sophomore year summer isn't because you don't have enough experience, it's because you're not looking in the right place. Colleges have absolutely massive connections. For example, at UChicago, we have Argonne National Laboratory, and almost everyone who applies to Argonne National Lab, which is a Department of Energy lab, gets a job somewhere in some department because of their affiliation to UChicago. And every college has things like that, so you really want to leverage career advancement services. Whatever career advancement services you have on campus, go to them. Get them to look at your resume, get them to give you all of that information about affiliations that the school might have, because we also had something called the Metcalf program, which was a $4,000 research grant that was given to anyone on campus who sent in an application and wanted to intern somewhere where that internship didn't offer any pay. So there are always going to be options like that. Talk to your professors about potential research opportunities by just sending a lot of emails to different people if you are going that research route. And just keep an eye out for affiliated institutions. My first internship was at an astrophysics observatory that was affiliated to UChicago. It was such a chill process. I was literally 2 quarters into college. I was 18, never had an internship or job before that, and my interview went so quickly. She just asked me why I was interested, and I told her the classes I was taking, and it was very quick, very easy, and I got paid every single summer after that. The second thing that you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to just limit your options when it comes to internships. Don't silo yourself into a specific field or a specific industry just because that's what everyone else in your major is doing. For example, I was an astrophysics major, but all of my internships were kind of adjacent to astrophysics. I wasn't doing pure research. The first one, I was actually a history intern at an astrophysics lab because I love history so much. It was such a fun experience, and it really built up my writing skills. And that actually helped me with my 3rd internship, which was as a science writer for the Department of Energy lab. So it's super cool how you can build up complementary skills in your internships that are really going to benefit you in your classwork in your future. So don't limit your options, and you could really be a part of any industry you want. This is really your place to go ham on whatever you apply to. It's really about the story you tell, not your qualifications. Once you get a full-time job after college as well, you don't really ever have this shot again. So you want to explore everything you possibly can to see what you like and what you don't like before you accept an offer at your full-time job too, after senior year. Now let's move on to organization. So part 2 of our internship framework, let's call it. This one's going to be short. You really want to make a list of every company you're interested in, and you want to take a look at Handshake or whatever the equivalent of Handshake is at your school. Handshake is actually UChicago's app that lets you look at all of the listings. And remember when I said that you want to make use of all of the affiliations? You use your school's career services online where all the postings are. Don't like apply on Indeed or LinkedIn if your school has an awesome service, because at UChicago, that's kind of how I got all my internships and jobs. They did recruiting on campus through Handshake. So after looking through Handshake or your school's equivalent, you really want to make a list of all the companies fast in an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to link a template down below, a super basic template. But you want to list the companies, the deadlines, and all of the requirements of things that they need, because a lot of companies actually end up recruiting a year before the internship starts, especially if you're going into something competitive like investment banking or other consulting economic-ish opportunities in the business world. They end up recruiting a year before you would start. So let's say you're a sophomore and you want to apply for, the summer of 2021, you would have had to have all of your interviews and everything the summer of 2020, a full year before. That's how fast some of the internship things close, and you really want to be on top of that. Of course, you can't do that as a freshman, but after your freshman year, you really, really want to keep on top of that and have everything organized. In that, you're going to have to tailor your resume, your cover letter to each specific job. Yes, you're going to have a template. Your resume is going to maybe be touched upon here and there, but your cover letter has to be specific to the company. And we'll talk about how to do stuff like that as well coming up. So a good way to just group everything is categorizing it by the skill set required. So for me, I applied to two kinds of jobs: data science jobs and management consulting jobs. And as a physics major, I really had to hone in on my story because all of my experience was physics research or science writing. So I really thought about my stories, how to craft it, and I had a specific resume that I would submit to consulting jobs, and I had a specific one that was very heavy on the quantitative side of my experience for the data science job, and everything kind of was tailored that way. So I would suggest grouping your companies based on the skill set required for that, and then just having a tailored resume for each. Let's get into resume stuff. Just a quick interjection to remind you to smash that like button and subscribe down below if you found any value in this so far. I have a lot of fun making these videos for you guys, and I want to keep doing it. So yeah, thank you so much. Just a quick caveat before I pull up my resume and we talk about resumes. If you're applying freshman or sophomore year summers, it's totally all right to include high school stuff. They probably expect you to include all of your high school achievements. You just want to make sure that you're tailoring all of the things you include in your resume to that specific job. But having high school stuff, totally fine. You can also include clubs that you're a part of on campus. You can use relevant coursework as a little section to take up a bit more space in your resume. You generally want it to be about a page, and you want it to have a specific theme, and honestly, cross-functionality is also a theme. You don't want to have a one-dimensional resume. You want to have a story. You want to have talking points in there. You want to be different from your competition. So if you're applying for a management consulting role, you don't have to only have economics-specific things or business-related things. You can add in everything you did. You just want to make sure it's a bit more tailored to the business side, but of course, let everything else seep through because you are a multidimensional person. So we're gonna go through my resume right now, and we'll go through it section by section and just make sure that you kind of understand what's expected of you. And yes, I'll have my resume linked down below just in case you need a template to start from. You can always look at mine as a reference. The first thing you want to have is education. I'm also going to be looking down below because that's where I have my laptop. So your first section has to be education. You want to add your expected major and minor, your GPA, expected graduation date. I think it's going to be really cool if you include courses and specific courses that you've taken that are relevant to that specific industry that you're applying to. So that's what I'm kind of meant by tailoring your resume. Maybe for quantitative research opportunities, I would have quantum mechanics, cosmological physics, computer science with applications. But if I was applying for consulting, I might want to add in some business classes that I took alongside my quantitative classes. So it's really up to you. you, but that's something you can tailor as well. The next section is going to be work experience, and if you don't have any, I just recommend adding in high school experience instead of having work experience. If you do have work experience, that's great. The different sections you have are going to be really tailored to you as a person and all of your experience, but let's just go through what work experience should look like. For example, when I worked at a national lab, I tried to be as specific as possible. Notice that I quantified everything. 8 original scientific articles after having interviewed 30 plus researchers. Designed a framework presented to 50 plus attendees to educate on best practices. So you really want to talk about what you did, why you did it, how you did it, and how it could have been beneficial for someone. The one thing I don't like seeing on resumes, because I ended up interviewing a couple people for my company from Chicago actually, and the one thing I don't like is when someone writes out something that they did, but they don't talk about how they did it or how it was beneficial to their company. So you kind of want to be comprehensive. For example, I have standardized technical documentation for open source software, but right after that, I had 4 more efficient member onboarding. So it's very obvious what I did and why I did it. So you just want to get specific that way. That's essentially my work section. You could take a look at it, learn what you will from it, but it's really important to just emphasize the specifics of what you did. Specificity and conciseness is really key when it comes to work experience, because they're not going to look at your resume for more than maybe half a minute. So you really want to have those keywords and specific things that you did that they can then relate to the job you're applying to. Moving on to leadership experience. This is something I actually added in later on, and it's because I co-founded an organization, and this was a really, really big part of what I did. So I ended up adding 4 points, and I think that this really shows me as a cross-functional, multi-dimensional person, and that's really important to me. I know a lot of people who, rather than doing that, would just have more selected projects, because I have a selected project section as well with 2 data science projects I worked on. Some people might want to add to that instead of having such a large leadership experience portion. It's up to you how you would do it. For me, this was very important in my life, so it has a good chunk of my resume. So I talked about exactly what I did, and I used very targeted adjectives like single-handedly spearheaded funding efforts and received grants totaling in $12,000. So I did that myself. Like, this was something I built from the ground up, so I really wanted to emphasize that. And I was selected as a fellow by the Clinton Foundation. This is really your one place to talk about everything you did and really brag and boast about yourself, because if you're not going to do it, who will, right? It's really important to have everything also in chronological order, or at least past tense to present tense. So just be mindful of that. And yeah, that's essentially my leadership section. Moving on to selected projects. This was really where I had all of my data science quantitative skills highlighted, and I was proficient in Python. So that's what I emphasized. I had a data-driven chess engine and also an analysis of comet and asteroid data. And this is what I chose to include, but notice how I was very specific. I talk about using Python and the specific libraries in Python and exactly what I did. Same with my comet and asteroid data. I talked about the imaging software and that it was a novel Python script, meaning that I wrote it myself. Then going on to skills, some people actually might want the skills section higher above in their resume, but I had mine at the end. It's really up to you. But I talk about a couple of technical skills, bilingual proficiencies, and extracurriculars. And the extracurricular part, I could have really expanded on that under leadership experience, especially the senior ACT teacher part. But I really wanted to emphasize my role as the president of an organization. But it's really up to you. Whatever is important to you, you could have 2 or 3 things with 1 or 2 points each, rather than the 4 points I had for one organization. And lastly, I had a selected publication section, which really is just something that was important to me because science writing was a big part of all of my internship experiences, and it shows that I'm a good communicator and not just a good technical quantitative person. So just because you're applying to one specific role doesn't mean you can't highlight other things that could be complementary. For example, if you're applying to be a political analyst, you can still include your quantitative projects that aren't directly related to political science, but could benefit you in the role, because when you work on quantitative projects or coding or anything like that, you really learn how to deconstruct abstract problems and solve it. And that's really a useful skill scale. So you want to highlight everything you've done and be a multi-dimensional person. And I know that's hard to do on one piece of paper, but you know, we gotta try. So hopefully this section helped with your resume, and yeah, let's move on to your cover letter. My cover letter is going to be a bit long, but let's talk first about what your cover letter is essentially supposed to do. I would stick with a 4-paragraph feel where you have an intro about what you're excited about and a bit about your background, 2 in-depth paragraphs that emphasize different parts of your skill set. For me, I chose a quantitative paragraph about all of my technical skills and another paragraph about my qualitative skills like communication and writing. And then my conclusion is just to let them know, hey, like, I am here to answer any other questions that you may have. And your cover letter is really supposed to tell them a story. Like, I want you to think about it almost as an essay, like a college essay, because that's how I tackle it. Getting in front of an interviewer is really hard. So you have to have a compelling story. And people always copy and paste cover letters, and it is so frustrating to read them over and over again, the same thing. So you really want to personalize it. So let's get straight into my cover letter. The first paragraph. I'm a senior at the University of Chicago, majoring in astrophysics and minoring in history. And I'm writing to you to express my interest in the full-time data science associate role in the Emerging Leaders program at Nielsen. I'm particularly impressed by the program's investment in recent graduates by providing them with hands-on intensive project rotations to create measurable results early in their career. So I had a quick snippet of what I'm impressed by and what I want to be a part of, but I didn't restate what the role does. I'm confident that my analytical research background, combined with my leadership experience, will successfully contribute to the company's collaborative atmosphere. So that one sentence really summed up what my body is going to be about. The first part, my analytical research background, that's what I have a paragraph on. And the second is my leadership experience. You really have to do that in your intro. Think of it literally like that's your thesis, and you're gonna go into your thesis in the body. My middle 2 paragraphs. So the first one is more about my quantitative background. A strong advocate of improving scientific communication techniques, I've published several scientific articles and a historical science booklet during my undergraduate years. Having worked as a researcher in a biophysics laboratory in the past, I recognized early on the importance of effective science communication as invaluable to convey the complexities within a specific field in a simple manner. This past summer, I had the unique opportunity to work at Argonne National Laboratory in the Math and CS division as a scientific writer, and I've refined my ability to distill large amounts of data to communicate complex ideas effectively to the public. I believe that my ability to quantitatively reduce data while qualitatively presenting the data-driven insight will serve me well as a data science associate at Nielsen. So that was really comprehensive. I actually ended up mentioning every experience I had. I talked about the historical booklet, my research at Argonne, and my ability to work with large amounts of data in the biophysics lab. So I really hit on everything in that one paragraph, and I connected it at the end slowly to qualitatively presenting the data-driven insight, and that's gonna foreshadow my next paragraph. So let's go into the next one. Over the past year, my efforts to increase women empowerment on campus led to founding a new student organization, Elevate U Chicago, in which my team and I created a platform for collegiate women to invest in themselves through a day-long professional development conference. As president and co-founder, I work closely with the dean of students in the university, who is currently our advisor and a strong advocate of our organization. Prioritizing efforts, whether it's for funding or logistical coordination, was essential in leading the Elevate core team of undergraduate and MBA students. Building the organization from the ground up reinforced to me the importance of and the need for social impact initiatives, and I'm eager to continue making a tangible social impact after graduation, perhaps through the Nielsen Cares initiative. So I told them exactly what I did, but at the end, I slipped in that I want to continue doing this at that company. And notice how this is a template, right? I can easily switch that last part to another initiative that another company could have. So it's really important to have a template like this. And notice how in my last paragraph as well, I talked about what I did and then related it to the company. So it's really important to talk about your past, because again, this is you crafting your your story, and then always relate it to how this is going to benefit you at that company. And the last 2 paragraphs, I had a little section kind of just like as a summary of my body paragraph. So through my experience with Argonne National Laboratory and leading Elevate, along with my research intensive skills, evidence through my past coursework and programming projects. That was a quick snippet that relates to my resume that I didn't cover in the cover letter. I'm confident that my background will fit the current needs and future ventures of Nielsen. I welcome the opportunity to speak with you about my qualifications and ways I can contribute. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. So that is pretty much it for my cover letter. I hope that helped you at least for this section. I really think that people lack a good story in their cover letters, and that's really what I try to emphasize. So hopefully this will help you, and hopefully you can craft your own story. Again, you want to differentiate yourself from other candidates, so having a template like that and then connecting it to different companies is really going to benefit you. Now let's move on to the last section, which is interview help. The first thing you want to do is figure out how you're going to interview prep, and yes, career advancement or whatever career advancement services you have on campus will probably have a lot of resources on their online website to help you with this. For example, if you're going to go into consulting or you want a consulting internship, there are so many specific books that everyone uses that could help you. And if you're going to go into coding, you would want to maybe get an account with leetcode.com so that you can try practicing all of those coding questions you're going to get, because every interview is so different and you really want to kill the interview when it comes to actually performing technical skills, but you also want to work on the behavioral side. So an interview essentially has like the section that's a bit more technical. Even if you're, for example, applying to a consulting role, they're going to ask you market sizing questions, and they're going to ask you like how to solve a consulting case. So they'll give you a problem and you have to work it out, do the math, and show it to them. And every interview is different. So if you're applying for something that's more in the arts or humanities space, you might not have something like that, but they will ask you about relevant experience. And then the other side is going to be behavioral questions where they ask you about your greatest weakness, your greatest strength, and all of that. So those 2 sides of interviews, you just want to make sure you prep and have all of the relevant resources. So if you're going into consulting, practice cases and market sizing questions. And I'm going to add a couple of books that I found really useful on the screen right now. If you're going into software engineering, data science, or any of the tech routes, you have to practice code and also just be super friendly. I found that the more friendlier and sociable you are in the tech world, the more they're going to forgive your technical skills. Like if you're not the best at something, but you're really willing to learn and you kill it on the behavioral interview and you answer every question properly and you come across as someone that they would actually want to work with, that's going to take you a long way. When it comes to behavioral questions in interviews, your greatest weakness, greatest strength, there's going to be about 50-ish questions, and they're really going to pick just 5 questions out of those 50 to ask you. So just have a story behind each one. For your greatest weakness, just give them a real answer. Think about it and figure out what your greatest weaknesses and have a story, and maybe at the end just kind of let them know, but this is something I'm actively trying to work on, and explain how you're trying to actively work on it. Maybe you have trouble understanding the big picture and you get really stuck in the details. Talk about how you've been working on really taking a step back and thinking about the bigger picture and organizing details after thinking about the bigger picture. Give them a project example where you did do that and you were successful. Have a story behind each one and have them on index cards so that you can just practice. Like literally, I'm going to add a couple links down in the description of great websites that have a list of pretty much every behavioral question you'd ever get. So just look at that, have a note card for each one, have it prepared, and when you talk about it, don't come across like a robot. Just, be chill. Talk to them like they're your friend and act like you didn't memorize all of this. The second thing I would say about interviews, other than you have to practice for interviews, you also have to have questions prepared for your interviewer. Like, yes, they are the ones interviewing you, but they're going to ask you if you have any questions about the company, and insightful questions can actually take up a lot of time in your interview, which is really, really good, because if it's a 45-minute interview and you're asking them very good and very targeted questions about the work life at that company, people like talking about themselves. Your interviewer is going to end up talking for at least 5 minutes. The more time they talk, the better it is for you, so that they don't ask you a question you're going to stumble on, you know? So have questions prepared, show interest in the company. And the last one, this one's pretty obvious, but practice a lot of mock interviews. Get your friends to interview you, give them all of those index cards you wrote up for behavioral questions. Confidence is really going to get you so far. When I first started, I was so nervous. I was like, I'm not qualified for any of this. I majored in physics, but I'm applying for businessy things. I'm applying for data science. I didn't major in CS. But honestly, you have a leg up when you're confident. That's all you have to do. Just act like everything you've done in the past is going to benefit the company, you know? It's really important. And you also want to apply to jobs that you're genuinely interested in, so that you can be confident about actually bringing value to that company and also learning from that company to bring value in your own life. That is pretty much it for this video. I know it was a long one. It was long for me to film as well. So if you found any value in this, please subscribe down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, and I will see you guys at the next video. Good luck on your internships, and shoot me any questions you have down below. I will answer every single one. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys at the next video.